Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Grid Live Encore. I'm Ben Schneider alongside Xfinity Series analyst Brandon Crossland, Formula 2 and Formula 3 analyst Joshua Birch, who's back inside this time. I know he was put outside due to some power outages for the wrap-up show, but we got Josh back in the studio here. ARCA analyst Casey Campbell, and look who's here. Joe Samaniego, our fearless leader, back from Portland International Raceway, ready to recap an extended Encore show here as we have USF2000, Indy Pro 2000, Indy Lights, and ARCA West to recap as well. But we're going to start with you, Josh, and go ahead and talk about some Formula 2 and Formula 3 action this weekend at Zandvoort. It was Kyle Collett who took his second sprint race win of the season ahead of a very heartwarming story as Juan Manuel Correa took his maiden F3 podium. Correa, of course, was involved in the F2 accident that claimed the life of Antoine Hubert. In 2019, Correa himself also suffered some serious injuries in the crash, but has since returned to single-seaters in F3. This was his best run so far since his comeback. Now, in the feature, it was Zane Maloney who took the race win ahead of Victor Martins, the latter of whom reclaimed the points lead. So, Josh, we'll bring you back in here now. How fantastic was it to see Correa back on the podium, and what else stood out to you the most from this weekend in F3?
It was fantastic. It was fantastic to see Juan Manuel Correa back on the podium in Formula 3 as well, and back on the podium in a Grand Prix setting as well. I mean, we all saw the accident. We all know exactly how bad it was, and I did feel as well that because Anton Hubert was tragically killed that day, that not many people were thinking about Juan Manuel Correa outside of the motorsport community as well. And I'm so glad that everybody has really pushed on as well and have willed him to do better and get better and get back in there as well. He's had a difficult season in Formula 3 as well. Last time out at Spa as well, he had an opportunity to get a race win, starting second, took the lead and then got forced off the track as well at the Con chicane. Yesterday as well, started on the front row of the grid, had the lead, lost out, but still a second place and his first podium back was absolutely fantastic. And the emotion on the podium as well was brilliant. The emotion over the team radio as well was something else as well. And other than that, the Formula 3 weekend was definitely two very different races. The sprint race on the Saturday was one of the most boring races I've ever watched in my life as well. One on-track overtake as well on lap one as well. And after that, nothing happened. They were all in a train as well until the end. It was the same actually for the F2 sprint race. And then on Sunday, everything suddenly exploded. We had a really fantastic Sunday race day, and Formula 3 kicked it all off again with some great overtakes. We found out the outside line at turn one was a place to overtake at. And also, it's completely destroyed the championship battle. We had 5 drivers inside that title fight. Now, realistically, there's only 2 going into the next season. Leclerc dropping out as well. Behrman scoring no points and getting a penalty in the last race as well in the feature, putting him so far out. All that hard work he did at Spa with a victory in the sprint and a third place in the feature wiped out. And Isaac Hadjar getting double points as well, exactly what he needed to do. But now we've got the final coming up in Monza, and realistically, Isaac Hadjar has got the easiest route to the championship. So I'm a bit disappointed with that. And I'm hoping that we have an interesting finale to the championship. And also, as we saw pre-show, today is Purple Day. So me and Ben match up, as I mentioned last week. We had the same top, and just to prove we actually do.
Well, Josh, I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads me right into this next question here. I know on last week's show you picked Arthur Leclerc to win the championship. Well, he's now 25 points back, so I assume you'd like to swap your championship prediction, unless you're banking on a miracle for him to still come out on top here.
Let's see, 10 points for the sprint race, 25 for all that, so it's 35 plus 2 for pole and 1 for fast lap in each. And there's about 37 points left. There is a mathematical shot as well, but no, I think after what we saw, Prima had a really bad weekend. Leclerc struggling, scoring no points in the sprint race, did score points though, I think with a 9th place in the feature race, and Behrman scoring no points. That's put them out of it. To me, the title will go I think, to Isaac Kadjar, which is a very worthy champion, but I think Zandvoort robbed us of what was going to be a great title fight. So I'll go Isaac Kadjar.
Sounds good. Well, let's move on to Formula 2 real quick here. Marcus Armstrong took the win in the sprint race. And Josh, I know you're talking about a dreadfully boring race there. I think the F2 sprint was along the same lines there. Very little on-track overtaking. Felipe Drugovich closed in on the championship by winning the feature as well. But I know, like I said, Josh, you said the sprint race in particular was dreadful to watch. We did have a red flag, couple of safety cars in the feature, though Drugovich still ended up leading lights to flags. So what are your biggest takeaways from the F2 race weekend here?
First of all, as well, how long it took for that red flag to come out as well, and basis as well, how long this weekend seemed to take with race control decisions. We've mentioned it before on the Encore show as well about how decisions are taking too long in race control, and we were 3 laps behind the safety car. As soon as we saw the accident, I knew it would be red flag. We all knew it would be red flag because the Tecpo barrier was completely destroyed, and it's a fast part of the track. So why it took 3 laps to red flag, I don't know. Safety is paramount, and we see the new F2 car that came in as well with the modifications after Anton Hubert's death as well. They modified just a little bit of the car, made it a bit stronger, a bit tougher as well, and it works because the wing for Logan Sargent as well, it came underneath the car and it didn't have any braking, so the gravel trap stopped him, the tire wall stopped him, but look at it, didn't damage him as well. The accident was very similar to Schumacher's actually as well from 1999, and Schumacher broke his legs at Silverstone, and yes, it was a bit faster part of the track, but it was very similar. He didn't have any brakes and he hit the tire wall as well, so the safety has come on a long way, and I was happy to see him walk away. What else stood out to me? Well, Felipe Drugovich has now pretty much sealed up the F2 title. Theo Pourchaire, we're talking about people having a bad weekend in Formula 3. Theo Pourchaire had a nightmare. Qualified down in 17th position. Fought back up in the sprint race, yes, but didn't do that well in the feature. I think 9th as well in the feature. But Pourchaire pretty much out of it for the title hunt now as well with such a bad weekend. So Drugovich now, like Verstappen, has 2 hands on the title and is waiting to be told when he can lift it, to be fair. And I think I said the same about Will Power, actually, because everyone else is holding back his second hand in IndyCar. But it seems like the F2 title was decided back with that double victory at Barcelona as well, with Drugovich that weekend doing the Grand Slam, pole position, fastest lap, sprint race, feature race win as well, and leading every lap of both of them. So that dominant performance sort of set him up for the rest of the season. So we've got 2 rounds left for Formula 2 in Monza, which is always unpredictable. We always get a nice race there. And then a 2-month break until Abu Dhabi, which, to be fair, Abu Dhabi looks like it's going to be a little bit of a glory run where we're just going to have some 2 races at the end of the season. That isn't going to mean much. I think the championships for both Formula 2 and Formula 3 will be sorted next time out in Monza. Definitely for Formula 3, though, because it's the last round.
Of course, yes. And Josh, one more thing I want to ask you here before we let you go. Roy Nissany has been banned, as far as I can tell, from the Monza round of the championship due to an acquisition of too many penalty points. So what's your take on the situation regarding him?
Well, he's got banned as well because he was in a strange situation when the safety car came out. He was side by side with Sato and Boschong as well, if I remember correctly, and they made contact together under the safety car. And Roy Nissany was deemed at fault there because he turned in on him. So I think with Roy Nissany, he's a bit like Nicholas Latifi and Raghunathan as well, a driver who keeps on crashing as well. But Nissany, earlier on in the year, you might remember as well, had a massive accident at Silverstone to which he caused and was nearly killed in it as well because the car was a car that he forced off the track was launched into the side of him as well. I think it was Dennis Hauger, actually, he launched into him at Silverstone. But Nissany is a bad driver. He is an aggressive driver. He causes accidents. He doesn't seem to want to take the blame. And to be fair, it was right that he's been banned as well. And he's only the 2nd F2 driver to be banned this season as well. And he's only the 3rd in history as well to be banned in the series. So I think it is right that he's got the ban. Cordial was the other banned driver earlier on in the season after he caused a multi-pile-up in Baku. And he came back and has done very, very well in his return. And this weekend, he scored his first ever points as well, finishing in 6th place in the feature. So Cordial's bounced back from the ban and has become a better driver. And I hope Roy Nizani becomes a better driver. It's right he's been banned because he's done so much this year. But personally, I don't think Roy Nizani will change. And I think he shouldn't be allowed in Formula 2. Formula 2 is the next stepping stone to Formula 1. You've got to be good. And Roy Nizani isn't good at all.
Well, tell us how you really feel regarding Roy Nizani there, Josh.
Silverstone really annoyed me.
I can tell. Well, before we let you go, on a more positive note, Josh, what's your one shining moment from everything you saw from the Encore series this weekend?
Definitely going to be 1-1 Mo Correa. I mean, it's got to be for me as well. A podium back as well, and could have been the win. That win will come though. Maybe not this season with Monza coming up, but hopefully in 2023 as well, he'll get a victory, and soon he'll make his progression back up to Formula 2. He's only in Formula 3 to get the race rust off as well and make sure he's okay at competitive driving as well. So he'll be back in F2 before we know it and back up where he belongs, fighting for race wins. But he's definitely my one shining moment. And as I said earlier on in the main show as well, the overall one shining moment for me this weekend was the Portland race as well, and our fantastic team as well, doing such a great coverage as well throughout the weekend as well. So that's all my shining moments as well. And I'm going to leave you now with your Portland wrap-up as a nice segue in.
Yeah, of course, we'll bring Casey and Joe back in for this. Josh, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Go get some rest.
Pleasure as always. Yeah, it's only 10 to 10, so I'm going to pop for a quick shower and have an early night after a busy weekend. Have a great show, guys. See you for Monza.
Thank you very much. All right, well, let's get into Portland. Of course, the site of the IndyCar Grand Prix of Portland weekend. Grid's full coverage is available in the link in the video description and on our YouTube channel. 2 championships of the 4 series in action were decided this weekend. However, the most dramatic championship, I think the one we have to start with, was USF2000. It was Michael D'Orlando who came out on top to claim the USF2000 championship ahead of Myles Rowe and Jace Denmark. Also of note, former NASCAR K&N West winner Jagger Jones ended up 4th in the final standings, a little bit further back. Joe, we'll bring you back in here. What can you tell us about this thrilling championship battle between these 3 talented young drivers?
It was very exciting for anyone that attended every day at Portland International Raceway. I think you will all agree that stole the show. That got all the attention afterwards, because coming in Thursday, we set up for the preview video outside of Myles' garage area. And after I recorded, I remember hearing a couple folks, oh, he's going to go to Indy Pro next year. He's got this. A lot of folks seem convinced. Very little talk about Michael D'Orlando, 25 points behind. Then that first race, Myles come home 10th place. All right, it's going to get a little bit closer. The second race, he started up in the front row, 16th place. Okay, what's going on? Does nobody want to win this championship? It's going to come down to the last race. It was buzzing that morning when the last race was getting started, and we were on the media tower. Several folks, including some folks that just purely came to see the IndyCar. When we saw them all going down to the Shelton chicane, and then the smoke, and then the spinning and all the mayhem, people were shocked. It was crazy. It was silent. Some folks were at a loss of word. And this really got everyone's attention from, okay, this is a race going on to, we got to see what's going to happen. Can Myles win this? He was putting on an effort coming from the back towards the front, lap after lap after lap. But then once he got to the teammates of Michael D'Orlando, it just stalled out. He ran out of laps. What could have happened? We had 3 or 4 more laps. Anybody's guess. But this was just thrilling. A lot of excitement throughout Portland International Raceway. Even afterwards, people were still talking about the way this championship all ended. And I think it really shows no matter what. We're talking about IndyCar earlier. Looks like Will Power has it. But until you race, get in the car, complete the laps, it's not over. A lot of folks going in there thinking Myles had it. Here he is without the championship. Michael D'Orlando, the champion. He was so pumped up when we chatted with him after Victory Lane.
And I believe we have that interview here backstage, so we'll go ahead and play that for you all right now.
I know a lot of folks want to talk to you. Big thing, you are the champion. You came in with a 25-point deficit. You survived the chaos in the first corner. Can you describe all the emotion, and especially in the race, knowing that Myles was catching up?
Honestly, I didn't know. I saw once in the corner of my eye that he was back in fifth, but I know Jagger and Jagger, Christian, and Nicky were all right behind me, holding them off, and they're pretty wide drivers. They're really good racers, so I wasn't really worried. I just wanted to run my own race and stay calm and collected, run some consistent laps through. I tried to stay as calm as I could be with all of the thoughts coming in. Oh, I could be a champion. I could be this. I just tried to shove them down and just focus these last couple laps, and it paid off. This whole weekend, I was 23 points down, I think, or 25. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but I just knew that. Yeah, something was going to happen. If you have two drivers fighting for it, there's going to be some accidents. So I just wanted to stay in the catbird seat, let it all play out, and follow my way through, and that's exactly what happened.
Michael, congratulations on the well-deserved championship, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Now, Casey, I want to bring you back in here and talk about Myles Rowe. How big of a deal is this championship result for him, even though he came up just short of winning the title, given his concerns regarding funding throughout the season?
Yeah, I would think it's not as a concern, but it is the championship, and I know that Myles works a lot on trying to get funding for a lot of things, and I know that funding was an issue for him this year, and Roger Penske and his team stepped up and was able to fund him throughout the season. Myles has got quite the personality. I've gotten to know Myles the last 2 years, and I think he's good to go. I'm not sure. I think I'm talking to Myles tomorrow, so I guess I'll have a better answer for you. But I don't think it's a concern. If he stayed in USF2000 for another year, I think he could. He's got a really good shot at the championship, especially with the Paps team. And then who knows what happen next with Indy Pro 2000. There's still a lot of things that have to be settled out here. We got the Chris Griffiths test next month, and then that's when a lot of these moves and where everyone's going to go really gets kind of settled out. But really, it's too early to tell right now.
And of course, we'll keep an eye on that throughout the offseason, and we're looking forward to your conversation with Myles tomorrow. Now, moving on to Indy Pro 2000, Louis Foster won race 1, while Reese Gold took races 2 and 3, but it was not enough for Gold to deny Foster a championship in Indy Pro 2000. Here's what Foster had to say after winning that championship.
Championship, how does it feel to do pole, win, and championship?
It's great. Obviously, coming to this weekend, we had a good chance of winning the championship, and we didn't need to win or pole or anything. So, I wanted to try and get as many points as possible and to try and win some races. So we came here and did that. So, doing both a win and to win the championship in the same race is a special feeling. So, I'm really happy.
And then, of course, the scholarship that comes with that, potential for Indy Lights. How huge is that for progressing your career in the Road to Indy program?
Yeah, no, it's massive. 100%. The award that you get for winning Indy Pro is amazing. So that's really going to help me move up to hopefully Lights next year. But looking forward to what the future holds.
Once again, congratulations and thank you so much for your time. We'll see you at the track again. Thank you. Thank you.
So Casey, we'll start with you here, and to throw it back to the idea of moving up from USF2000. A couple of drivers we were just talking about. What kind of competition can Michael D'Orlando expect next year? And do you think Myles Rowe, and I know we'll probably potentially get an answer when you talk to him tomorrow, but do you think he could end up moving up as well?
Well, obviously, I think Michael D'Orlando will also be on as well. We're also going to try to get Jay Stenmark on and working on a Louis Foster interview. So I want to preface that a little bit. But again, we know Michael D'Orlando is going to be in Indy Pro 2000. It's going to be a tough field for sure. But, what Louis Foster's been able to do in Indy Pro 2000 with exclusive has really been it's just been outside of dominant. And this is a kid that hasn't really seen the United States until this year. He lives in Los Angeles. He's from the UK. What a great personality. But just trying to survive and discover America, and what better place to do it than Los Angeles. But yeah, he's gonna have some competition in Indy Lights. But again, similar to last time, we really don't know what to expect until a lot of these moves are going to be made toward the off season. So can't really give you a good answer on that. I'm sorry, but obviously you got to expect some big competition to come. You got the Juncos cars that are always strong. You got Exclusive Autosport, and who knows what could happen when more teams go to Indy Lights. How's everything going to shake out? Are some USF teams going to go up and advance up there and go to Indy Pro 2000? Who knows?
I think with next year, Indy Pro 2000, it's going to be a stacked field. We have several different winners. This year, of course, Louis Foster got a win. Reese Gold, several other drivers got a win. So with Michael D'Orlando coming into that group, I think he's going to have a lot of stiff competition. It'll be really interesting if we can see Myles up there. I think this is going to be a very exciting field to watch. I know we don't talk too much about Indy Pro 2000, and a lot of fans don't come to, for instance, Portland for the Grand Prix of Portland. The IndyCar is the only show up Sunday, maybe Saturday, Sunday to catch qualifying. But if there's going to be a race weekend where you got Indy Pro 2000, don't miss it. I think it's going to be one of the series you have to watch next year because there's a lot on line to try to get into Indy Lights. The Road to Indy ladder system, what a great system. This is something where I think for 2023, if you want to see some great racing where the drivers, all of them wanting to get up there, don't miss this in 2023. I'm thrilled about it. I cannot wait for them to come back to Portland next year.
And let me just add on to it. And that's not all the Road to Indy championships to be won. I know the IndyCar and Indy Lights championship will be decided next week at Laguna Seca, but after that, the Indy USF Juniors, a completely brand new series to the Road to Indy after Indy Lights went back into the control of the IndyCar and Penske Entertainment Group. The Anderson Promotions people who I've been able to work with, and I know that you have worked with that this weekend, Joe, the best in the business, and they've made a new series called USF Juniors. So they'll be more like, and of course everyone's getting the halo as well. So more to come on that, but that championship will be decided in a few weeks at COTA. So pretty interesting, good battle between Matt Clark, who of course won this weekend for D-Force Racing, and we got Alessandro DiTullio and Sam Corey in a bit of a battle there. So that'll be one to watch in COTA in a few weeks.
Certainly plenty to watch all throughout the Road to Indy ladder. And speaking of a ladder, let's continue to move up our ladder here and talk about the Indy Lights series. Benjamin Peterson took his first career Indy Lights win at Portland this weekend, leading every lap from pole position to take victory, maximize his points total ahead of Matthew Brabham and Linus Lundqvist. Now, Lundqvist now has a 103-point lead over Matthew Brabham in the championship and simply needs to start the doubleheader at Laguna Seca in order to officially clinch it. Joe, were you surprised Peterson was able to win so decisively this weekend?
I wouldn't say I was too much surprised that he got it so decisively this weekend. He has several second-place finishes this year in racing, so overall, we know he could be in the podium to get his first win at this track when everyone was talking about Brabham and Lundqvist. It was something where I just feel like it was just caught everyone by surprise that at the timing where the championship's coming to the end, he was able to steal the race, get the win. But overall, with the results he's been showing this year, podium finishes, yeah, he did have two finishes, I believe, outside the top 10 all season long. Very talented kid. I think he's really got a great future ahead and just overall had a really great weekend at Portland International.
Yeah, certainly some great things happening in Indy Lights as well. And then finally, not quite the Road to Indy ladder, but one more series in action that we cover here on this show, the ARCA Menard Series West. Jake Drew dominated once again in the West race at Portland, leading all but the opening two laps, which went to Todd Souza, who finished second. Drew took his fourth win in the last 5 races, fourth win of the season total. He's yet to finish outside of the top 5 all season long. Here's what he told our own Joe Samaniego after the race.
Jay, congratulations. It looked like you controlled that race. Was it as easy as it was in the car as it appeared outside of the car?
Definitely not. I mean, those restarts were pretty tricky. Definitely a little bit more contact than I would like on each one, but we were able to make it through and just play it smart, and luckily we had the pace to get through each time and build a bit of a gap, and then we could kind of just conserve from there.
Now, we know here, especially the restarts, it gets a bit tricky, but we saw this year drive through the Shelton chicane, not deal with down the restart. Do you believe that was the best move by ARCA West?
I believe that was the best move. I mean, granted, there was still some contact, but it was able to be managed and keep it under control from the lead car. So I'm really happy that the decision that they made to improve the racing for all of us.
And it's great racing overall that we saw throughout it. You've been really good here. What is it about Portland? It seems like rain or shine, you just seem to always excel here.
I definitely got to give a thank you to my background of karting, but I really just enjoy running here at Portland International. It's been a favorite of mine since I came here last September, and I hope I can come back even more.
Rest of the season, we know it's coming towards the end. What are some of the big things you're looking forward to with the remaining races?
Just keeping our heads on straight and doing the best we can each time we show up, and just making sure we run all the laps each time. And thankfully, when that's in the cards, then my team's already brought me a stout car, and I'm in the chance for the win.
Jake Drew, best of luck for you for the rest of the season. Any sponsors or special thanks you'd like to give shout out to?
Of course, a huge thank you to the whole Bruncati family for this amazing opportunity they give me to come run their number 6 Ford Fusion. Thank you to Irwindale Speedway, Molecule, Group A Apparel, Offset Suits. Thanks to Stilo USA. Thanks to everybody that makes this possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Jake mentioned it right there. The decision was made to bypass the opening few corners on the start and all subsequent restarts. Do you agree with his assessment that that was the right call for the ARCA Menard Series West?
I do agree with it. The one funny aspect, though, prior to the start, there was a group of photographers, including myself, in the festival corners, and I asked them, so they're going to come through the festival on the first lap, correct? Oh, yeah, they will. And then we just all stood there like fools at the festival, the Shelton chicane, and just watch them all go right past us. I was like, well, okay. Now we know that's not going to be the case, but overall, I felt that was the right move. We saw even last year when they came here for this race weekend, it was sunny, it was dry, but we still had chaos on the first lap, following the restart. I know last year Bridget did a good job of maneuvering around the mayhem, but at the same time, she got damaged last year. And then, of course, when we were there, Ben, in the wet conditions, my goodness, with so much hard rain that day, had to cut the race short. Eventually, it did stop raining, so it's like, well, maybe we should have not cut it. I felt this was a right move to do. And honestly, I know it's a little getting further ahead, but if the Xfinity do return back next year, might be something to consider, that initial restart or every restart since they do double file. But I do agree with Jake Drew. We had some really good racing there. It wasn't just caution after caution after caution. We saw some great passes, and I think it improved their product.
Casey, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, it's what they did back in June when the Xfinity Series was there. So yeah, I mean, you know, turn one at Portland. It's turn one at Portland. It's what they've always done. It's this series is. I mean, obviously, can you imagine what if they actually went through there and stuff happened? We'd be talking about just. Can you imagine all the social media, all the stuff about that? Yeah. We're not. No, ARCA's going to try to do what is right, and they did the right move here. And obviously, it's something going forward that they should do. You're not ready for that chicane yet. When you get to other levels, though, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I have to say, normally I take the side of the idea that drivers should learn to adapt to the track rather than the series adapting the track to the drivers. But in this particular case, with the experience level of a lot of these ARCA West drivers just starting out, and obviously you have to consider the financial aspect as well with teams not wanting to tear up their race cars, I think certainly an understandable call at the very least, whether you agree with it or not. You have to consider all the circumstances that led up to it. And I think we even got some good racing into the first hairpin corner that came out of it. So I think it was certainly a good call in this case. And I'm sure as long as the West Series continues to come back to Portland, they'll probably follow the same protocol going forward there as well. Now, misfortune struck both of the Bill McAnally Racing entries. You see Cole Moore was able to recover back up to a fourth-place finish. Landon Lewis further down in ninth position, a few laps down. So it did give a few drivers an opportunity at career best runs. Takuma Koga equaled his best career finish in the West Series of fifth. Ryan Philpott sixth. Davey Magris ended up seventh, the final car in the lead lap. And Bridget Burgess ran as high as fourth, which would have been a career best by far before a transmission issue cost her several laps worth of repair time that ended up dropping her back to 10th place. Now, here's what Bridget had to say on a disappointing end to her return to Portland International Raceway.
Bridget, I know it showed a top 10 finish, but you were much higher than that, 4th place. Can you tell us what happened? Because it looked like a few laps ago we're going to have a restart, but then we see you come in the pits, and then it was smoke. What happened?
So we've been struggling all weekend with fuel pressure, which is a bit unfortunate. It must be something within the fuel tank, so we have to check that out. So basically every straightaway, my fuel pressure would just drop and it wouldn't allow me to go full throttle. And I was mainly when I would go to half tank of fuel. And then our second problem is that for the last time I pulled out, I had transmission problems. Unfortunately, I had a problem with the bung head fell out, so I had no transmission fluid, so we're fighting that battle. It's unfortunate to go from last place all the way up to 4th place and then back down to just finishing 10th, but it's still another top 10 finish, and we'll take that.
Another top 10 finish, and you were out there racing. We saw you make that move on the number 7. It looked like the festival corners, the Shelton chicane, seemed to be your strength. That was one of your strengths, and then that pass on the number 7. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I understand that, just with how used my motor is right now, I don't have the top end horsepower to compete on the straightaways. But when it comes to a road course, thankfully that's when you can beat them under brakes, and I definitely like to take advantage of that. And basically, I just wanted to save my car the whole race, stay clean, because I knew everyone was going to take each other out. And every time he messed up, that's when I took the opportunity to just gain lap times. And I just had a clean race, didn't touch anyone, so I consider it a good race for myself.
And now I know we're wrapping up towards the end of the season. What are some of the goals for the rest of your team in the upcoming races?
Right now, it's just to keep everything clean, keep all the races good, keep getting top 10s, hopefully a top 5 soon. Thankfully, my mom and I will be racing at the Bull Ring in Las Vegas, so that'll be an exciting race for everyone to watch.
And of course, we'll be all watching that as well too. And big kudos to your team. We saw them in the pits trashing, putting everything to get you guys back on the track to get that top 10 finish. Any special thank yous or sponsors you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes, thank you to my sponsors, HMH Construction, Gear Inch Tools, eBay Motors, Sunoco Fuels, Lucas Oil Products, and thank you to everyone that also support me. My parents are, at the end of the day, my biggest sponsors, and I'm very thankful for their help.
Best of luck to you the rest of the season, Bridget.
Thank you.
And of course, Joe will have more on Bridget on the Women in Motorsports program on Thursday. Joe, is there anything else you want to add about Bridget's run from what you saw at Portland?
Overall, great run. Considering, we really didn't have that many yellows. She was making good progress on the track. The pass she did on the number 7, really impressive. Especially, this was not like at the festival corners or exiting into that main straightaway. It was after the S's. She had a phenomenal car. I know a couple folks talked about, I believe one of the announcers at Portland International Raceway picked her to be the surprise winner of this race. Coming up to the field and to hear her say she couldn't be full throttle, it just made me think if she was, what kind of progress she would have done. She just needs a good break. She loves racing at Portland International Raceway. It's one of the races she looks forward to. Just needs that luck to get that good finish. And I think if she comes back again, if the ARCA Menard Series have 2 races, the West Series come back for 2 races again, she has to definitely be one of the drivers to watch.
Now, of course, she does a lot of testing at Utah Motorsports Campus, which is her home track, and we know she certainly loves to drive on the road courses and usually does fairly well in them as well. So certainly hope that she can get some better equipment to come back next year, and who knows, maybe even challenge for a podium finish or a win or something like that as well. And of course, I think she reiterated in that interview as well, her mother Sarah will be joining her out on the track at the Bull Ring, so we'll get to see a little bit of history there later this season. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your coverage this weekend at Portland. I'm going to send you backstage here. We'll see you again here at the end of the show, but thanks again. And we're hopeful that we can continue to build this up and make these weekends a little bit more common here at Grid Network. So thanks again for your hard work this weekend. All right. Well, Casey's back with us now very briefly. We were going to talk about the DuQuoin race and recap that on this show today, but it ended up getting postponed originally to 6 p.m., then got bumped up an hour to 5 p.m., and I have Flow Racing and Mav TV off in the background on my television right now, trying to keep an eye on it. The race is just about to get started as we speak. Yep. So, Casey, what can you tell us about the decision to wait until this evening to restart the race rather than bumping it up to earlier this afternoon, then deciding to bump it up an hour anyway? And then a little bit of pre-race predictions here. Do you think Jesse Love, he's going for that $50,000 bonus to sweep the dirt races? Do you think he can pick that up?
Well, let's start off with your first clue. You asked a lot of questions there, Ben. Let's start off with the first one you have. Obviously, the reason why they did this is because, it's rain. If you remember what happened last year at DuQuoin, it was just, I don't know what that was. From talking with ARCA last year, no one was happy with how that race went. And obviously after lately with rain, and of course with what happened at Springfield, and then just with rain and everything that happened in the Cup race last week at Daytona, it's definitely something that, the series wanted to be. No, ARCA does not want to postpone a day because they're not the Cup Series, they're not the Xfinity Series, and they're not the Truck Series. They're ARCA. I mean, that's not an insult to ARCA, but the teams just don't have a lot of money. And so it's a cost-saving measure to get all the hotel rooms, get everything all set to go, just stay another day. Maybe some drivers have other jobs that they have to get to. And it's just, it's a lose-lose for everybody, but this was a great call by ARCA. Safety is always the number one priority when it comes to racing. And I think just anytime you mix rain and dirt together, it doesn't really go well. It leads to a lot of chaos, and I think ARCA wanted to avoid that.
No doubt. And then, of course, Jesse Love starting on the pole based on starting the field by owner's points. There's no practice or qualifying happening now that they've moved the start up. Do you think he can pick up the bonus as we get this race underway here?
Yeah, the race is literally underway. I'm watching as Sammy Smith and Jesse Love are having a drag race into turn 3. I do think Jesse Love's got a real shot at getting the 50,000 today. Who knows what could happen? It is typically this race is run later in the day. The dirt is going to really maybe pick up a little bit. There is weather in the area, so it could be a race to halfway. These cars are getting up there. But it could be a race to halfway. Who knows? Weather's going to be obviously a big factor in how this outcomes. But in terms of the championship, Raja Carruth, Daniel Dye, and Nick Sanchez are in a battle for the championship. Nick's got a pretty comfortable lead, but if he falters, or if Daniel falters, or if Raja falters today, it could increase Nick's lead, or it could make this championship really, really close again, heading into Kansas next week. We only have 4 more races after today. So it's definitely going to be pressure time here in the ARCA Menard Series. Look at these cars sliding up there, Ben.
Yeah, I've got the race on, like I said myself, and looks like everybody's starting to settle in here. It's only lap 2 on my end. Casey, I don't know, your feed might be a little bit ahead of mine.
Yeah, it is.
Streaming on my Roku here, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on this race. Of course, if anything major happens, we'll break in and interject here throughout the rest of the show. It's just unfortunate the way the timing worked out. It was too late for us to reschedule, as ARCA was also rescheduling very late, but we'll keep an eye and we'll give you guys a full recap, hopefully on next week's Encore show. In the meantime, Casey, before we let you go, what is your one shining moment from this weekend in the world of motorsports?
I got to give it to Michael D'Orlando. Coming back from 25 points down entering the weekend, and then just going out and winning the championship. Michael doesn't come from a lot of money. And, there was questions of whether or not he would make it to Portland as well. But what a job by him. What a job by Cape Motorsports to cap off their career in USF2000. And Daniel Dye just crashed. Boy, that's going to really impact the championship there. This is live reacting on Grid right now. But yeah, Michael D'Orlando, what a race and champion there. Wow. USF2000. He deserves it. Sorry, this crash kind of it's like Raja was involved in it too.
Yeah, this is a live show, ladies and gentlemen. But I tell you, my flow stream actually crashed right before you said that, so I just had to.
It looks like Daniel Dye and Raja Carruth got together. Just the two of them just spun, coming into one. So that's going to really impact the championship a lot heading into Kansas. And by the way, Nick Sanchez won at Kansas this year. The Rev cars are strong on these big tracks. So
there they are both, Caruth and Dye spinning out, and that's good news, I guess, for Sanchez and his championship prospects,
for sure.
especially going to a track he's won it already, like you mentioned, Casey.
That's gonna really impact this championship for sure.
No doubt. All right, well, Casey, we'll let you get back to some ARCA coverage here as the race is going on, but thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Always, thank you so much for allowing me to come on Grid, and we'll be talking soon as more stuff might happen.
All right, Casey, good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
All right. Well, Brandon, I see you just put a message in the chat here. I know we share a Flow Racing login.
I'm the culprit. I'm the reason your stream went out. I'm sorry.
That makes sense.
This is
problem.
a live show.
I'm glad you're taking advantage of it, though, and being able to watch the race with us. That's good.
The only deal is we can't take advantage of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
No problem. All right. Well, let's get into the Xfinity recap. Actually, before we get into the Darlington race recap, we do have an update regarding the playoff situation and Jeremy Clements. Clements, of course, won the race at Daytona, but his car was found to have an unapproved intake manifold, resulting in an L2 penalty, costing the team 75 driver and owner points, a very, very stiff penalty. It also nullifies Clements' playoff berth. However, he was allowed to keep the victory since the infraction was discovered after the initial post-race inspection. So, Brandon, I know there's been a lot of talk about disqualification in this sport in recent years, especially with NASCAR seeming to do away with the encumbered victories that were so controversial, winning a race with an illegal car. Well, now it seems like they've brought the encumbered victories back. Is it inconsistent for NASCAR to disqualify drivers for failing post-race inspection, but let Clements keep the victory here?
Ben, I said it with you a few days ago when we were talking about encumberment and things like that. It's almost like we only did away with the namesake of encumberment, but the idea of it, but the idea behind it seems to have lingered here. And I don't understand where they draw the difference. I mean, post-race inspection and after post-race inspection, it's still a post-race inspection. I don't see why they're labeled as two different times of inspection for these cars. But there seems to be some sort of difference between Jeremy Clements getting it and then when some other drivers get disqualified. I don't seem to see the differentiation between the two.
Well, I think what happened was it's a bit more. It's a different inspection process because it's an L2 penalty instead of an L1 penalty. So I don't know if it was a more thorough tear down of the car at the R&D center rather than what they do at the track. And that's why once the results are finalized, Clements is allowed to keep the win. I did see some conspiracy theorists on Twitter saying that NASCAR is still mad at Carl Long for what happened in 2009 with his illegal engine, and they just don't want an MBM Motorsports car to win the race because, of course, Timmy Hill finished in second, and he would have been the one promoted to the victory.
That's a stretch.
Been disqualified. Yeah, I think that is a little bit of a stretch there. Although I do have to say, all biases aside of certain people wanting to see a Carl Long owned car in victory lane, it does seem inconsistent to me as well that NASCAR would take this stand and start disqualifying people who fail post-race inspection. To me, it doesn't matter if you found the infraction in the teardown at the track or the teardown a few days later at the R&D center, you still won with an illegal car. So where is the consistency in allowing Clements to keep his win versus disqualifying Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch for what happened at Pocono a few weeks back? So it just seems inconsistent to me there, and maybe that's something NASCAR is going to review, especially given the importance of this win. It's a feel-good victory for an underdog team, and it would have put them in the NASCAR playoffs, but now it's a very, very hefty points penalty, which if they weren't already in a must-win situation, Clements, I don't know how he's going to pull it out over these next couple of weeks to try to get back into the playoffs. It's going to be very, very difficult. But even then, I think there's 10 playoff points that he lost should he make his way back in there. So NASCAR not messing around with the penalties, but they are letting him keep the win, which is kind of interesting to see here. But we'll follow up on that, obviously, and report on that if anything further comes of it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to steer around your question like that. I do think it is also inconsistent of NASCAR, and then there's a lot. It just adds to the list of other inconsistencies we've been discussing here on Encore.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into what was a very exciting Xfinity Series race at Darlington and a very thrilling battle at the finish coming down between Noah Gragson, Sheldon Creed, and Kyle Larson. As Creed was fighting to hold the lead from Gragson, Larson suddenly entered the picture. He was able to get around Gragson before setting his sights on Creed. Larson briefly took the lead going into turn one on the final lap, but the two drivers got well out of shape through turns 1 and 2. That allowed Gragson to pass both of them on the back straightaway. Going into turn 3, Creed tried a video game style move by slamming on the gas and riding the outside wall, which actually worked better than expected, but it ultimately wasn't enough. Gragson passed him back coming off of turn 4 to take the win. Creed had to settle for second, and you see on the screen there, Larson actually faded back to 5th. AJ Allmendinger and Justin Allgaier were able to get around him on the final lap. It's Gregson's 4th win of the year. Creed is still looking for his 1st. So, Brandon, what are your thoughts on this thrilling finish that we saw and how these 3 drivers race each other in the closing laps?
I was laughing. That was just really fun. And Xfinity Series, they need good races like this. They typically get some better races sometimes in weekends where they share it with the Cup Series. But, man, this was just fun to watch. And it just had me, like I said, just had me laughing there at the end. Sheldon Creed pulling the full video game send boy mode. And it reminded me an awful lot. I'm sure it did everyone else as well, of Carl Edwards also trying the same thing against Jimmy Johnson on a much bigger track. Didn't work out as well in the Cup Series many years ago. But, man, Noah Gragson coming out of nowhere to take the win. It really was Sheldon Creed's race to lose there. Just had to hold them off. And it seemed like going into 3, it was the result of a cut tire or something like that pushed him into the wall. I don't know, because it was some of the damage that Larson had dealt with him coming out of 2. And by the time they reached the end of the Bowling backstretch, he really just kind of did him in. Yeah, just had a little nudge to him. I'm kind of watching the replay as I talk about it. But the sparks coming off of Sheldon Creed, and that really did, like you said, did really work a lot better than expected. But Noah Gragson just taking advantage of two racers going at it, and it really put on a show. But really feel bad for Sheldon, but also good to see Noah Gragson further himself inside the playoff grid.
Well, I guess for Josh's sake, it's good at least that Larson didn't win, because then
right.
you said about a Cup driver coming back down into the Xfinity Series there. We only have to deal with that for a couple more weeks here, because then the playoffs start and then the Cup drivers won't be allowed to do that. Also of note, sending our best wishes to Denny Hamlin. He was supposed to be in the Xfinity race. Of course, he pulled out due to soreness from the Daytona crash, so certainly hope he's doing all right. Of course, he had a great run in the Cup Series race, so he can't be doing that bad, but I understand him wanting to take things a little bit easier the first weekend, coming off of some of the hard hits he took there. And, of course, we're continuing to follow the whole issue with the safety of the next-gen car. We're going to report on all these things in the coming weeks as we close out the season here. But, Brandon, just to follow up on Sheldon Creed in particular, even though he didn't get the win, do you think he's still going to be able to use this as positive momentum in what really, if we're being honest, has been an otherwise difficult rookie season relative to his teammate Austin Hill?
I'm not sure. This Darlington is such a unique track as far as skill. I don't think this is going to give him any sort of leg up as far as what he's learned here, but in his first year in the Xfinity Series. But no, as far as positive momentum, which is everything in motorsport, yes, this will definitely give him something going into Kansas. It'll give the whole Richard Childress team something to keep their head up with, as well as on the Austin Hill side of things. But both of them are going to be fired up going into Kansas. I think this good finish is going to fire up both sides of the equation. It has been a difficult rookie season for him, but I think this might, not as far as skill, but as far as just positive momentum, is going to help him in Kansas. And maybe show that, yeah, it's okay if I try some things that are a little unconventional, and it might end up giving me a better result if I can't win.
Yeah, of course, it's been a tough season for Creed relative to his teammate Austin Hill, who's also in his rookie season in the Xfinity Series, winning a couple of races. Creed hasn't had that level of success, but this was easily his best run of the year so far. And we'll see if the ARCA and Truck Series champion can try to emulate that success in the Xfinity Series. Maybe not this season, but looking forward to future seasons as well. Well, let's bring Joe back in here as we prepare to close out the show today. Joe, I want to give you an opportunity in particular. What's your one shining moment from everything that you saw on the grounds of Portland International Raceway this weekend?
I would say the one shine moment is how the Road to Indy ladder system is working, and I think it's going to be producing more great drivers, and it's really, I think, going to get a lot of drivers' attention. Oh, can't do it in the Formula FIA ladder. This is the ladder to go to. We saw a great championship battle in USF2000, Indy Pro 2000. Indy Light had a great race there. And of course, the IndyCar Series. When you have this kind of competition and the awards of you're going to move up the next step. This is huge in motorsports, especially when we know motorsports so often comes down to wealth, sponsorship deals, and overall the great racing we saw, the potential outlook. Cannot wait to see what Casey has in store for us tomorrow. My shining moment has to be the road to Indy ladder system. I think it's something that FIA and others could look at, because this is it's produced some great racing at Portland. And for anyone that didn't go to any of these races, be sure to look it up on your calendar next year. This is going to be a lot of fun in 2023.
Oh, one shining moment. If I had to pick one, some of mine are already on Ben, so I'll leave those alone. But I definitely have to give Sheldon Creed props there for the video game move through 3 and 4. If I'm going to pick something from Xfinity, but since I'm not on the Cup side of things here with the Grid Live wrap-ups, I'll have to go with Eric Jones bringing the 43 back to victory lane. First Southern 500 win on the day 55 years ago, and also since 2014 that the 43 has been to victory lane. Those are two of my shining moments throughout the whole weekend in NASCAR.
Well, I know we don't really cover the Cars Tour here on Grid Live Encore, but one race that was getting a lot of attention and well-deserved attention was the Cars Tour race at North Wilkesboro this week, starring Dale Earnhardt Jr. himself making a return to the late model scene. And I want to give a one shining moment to everybody involved in that effort to save the North Wilkesboro Speedway and bring racing back to it. It's been a long time coming, and it's unbelievable that it's finally happened. And we have to give credit to Dale Jr. I think, who knows, if he hadn't been the one to spearhead this process to get it clear just to scan it for iRacing, I think that might have really been a turning point to actually bring real life racing back to it. And who knows what the future holds for everybody in North Wilkesboro. But great to see some fantastic racing all month here. I know we've got some great racing coming up shortly when they throw the dirt on it. And then, there's going to be more renovations in 2023. And then, like I said, it's anybody's guess how far we can take this from here. But what we saw, this week alone is a complete win for everybody involved in that project. And Carson Kvapil as well. I want to give him a shout out for winning the race, and Dale Jr. finishing third as well. Great run for him in the race as well. So Junior Motorsports, all distractions aside from the festivities going on in North Wilkesboro, a great weekend and great result for that team. Everybody involved, like I mentioned, that's my one shining moment for this weekend here on the Grid Live Encore show. And unfortunately, we're out of time. We're out of things to talk about for today. But thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe to Grid Network right here on YouTube. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're streaming on Twitch now and LinkedIn as well. If you want to invest in Grid Network, if you really like what you saw today on the wrap-up show and the Encore show as well, make sure you take a few minutes after the show to invest in our Patreon. And as always, we want to thank Colin Deschelle, Mark, and Robin, who have already done so. Your support means the world to us. If you'd rather make a one-time donation, you can buy me a coffee. And thanks as always to Edward, Amber, and Zachary, who have already done that. Finally, visit our sponsor, Public.com, the stock market social media home. The referral code GRIDnet in the link below gives you $5 to invest. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends too and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. Now, on Wednesday, Kobe will bring you Grid Tonight. Kobe Lambeth with Adam Lemerise on that show. Joe Sammiego will host the Women in Motorsports program on Thursday with Daniel Zeri. And, of course, as always, stay tuned for more Grid Live coverage throughout the week and into the weekend as well. And make sure you tune in to the ARCA race at DuQuoin happening right now. Gentlemen, any final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
I'm all good. It's a good week.
Absolutely. Joe, thanks again so much for all your coverage this weekend. For Joe Sammiego, Casey Campbell, Joshua Birch, and Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your week.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, Public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on Public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on Public.com.